The purpose of this video is to tie the Mandela Effect to other phenomena that we would consider supernatural. If you've followed this channel for any length of time, I've often talked about the Mandela Effect that would fit within the broader context of the supernatural, because I think the Mandela Effect is a perfect candidate to fit into that larger lexicon. The pictures you're looking at right now are pictures that I was given permission to show from fellow MEs that I met at last summer's Mandela Effect conference. And the blocks over their faces is because they wish to remain anonymous. And ultimately, what I'd like you to look with each of these pictures is the grayish or the kind of dim area of the picture. And the story that was told, without getting too specific, because the people that allowed me to show these pictures wanted to keep their privacy and keep most of their story to themselves, which I completely understand. But the idea is that these people are Mandela affected, and these gray areas that are either above their heads or around them, or at night you can see orbs. Is something that they think is an ongoing presence in their house. Now, this isn't something that's hostile or anything like TI related or anything like that. This is more or less something about their broader narrative of their family, and being Mandela affected is a part of that. And I think anyone who's been in the Mandela Effect community for any length of time, based off the comments that I've gotten on this channel, it seems to be that, and we've talked about this before on the Lost and Found bin, and I have on the Lizard Ritual, that the Mandela Effect seems to be tied to all kinds of other things like near-death experiences, the supernatural, the paranormal, having other kind of sixth senses, or being able to see or sense things. And this family too is also experiencing those kinds of things. And again, this isn't a tale of horror or hostility or something frightening. It's just something that they live with as just like we all do, being MEs. It's a part of your everyday life where you can experience the world one way, and then the next day it's kind of rearranged on you. And these pictures are important because I released a couple of them before this video, and I did that because I wanted some feedback, and a lot of people did give me different kinds of feedback, and one that I wanted to dispel is that it's not a raindrop or some kind of water drop on the lens, because these are multiple cameras, as you can see, and they're in multiple locations. They're ultimately security cameras. And they're motion detected. I don't know if all of them are, but I know at least one or two are motion detected. And this family experiences paranormal activity, specifics of which I'm not going to get into. But I've always assumed the Mandela Effect was somewhere within this realm, just because of my own personal experiences, my own near-death experience. What I experience and what I see on a day-to-day basis, and how I view the world. When the Mandela Effect came into my world and I started to see personal MEs around me, I began to understand that this was probably something that always existed, that I'm just now seeing and understanding. And again, whether or not these gray areas, in each photo, take a look and try to find that gray area, If they're tied to the Mandela Effect or they're not tied to the Mandela Effect, I'm not going to make that claim. I'm not ready to make those kinds of claims yet. But it does add another piece of the puzzle to what the Mandela Effect is, and the different ways in which we all experience the Mandela Effect. It seems to be at different levels and different kinds of people. So even if you're an ME and you walk away with this and you still don't want to believe that the Mandela Effect is tied to any kind of paranormal or supernatural experience, you can at least look at these pictures and understand that this family experiences those two possibly not separate things at the same time. So for me, I choose to think that the Mandela Effect and other paranormal things are related. And just because there's not some kind of major announcement from beyond of the two in some sort of grandiose fashion doesn't mean that the Mandela Effect isn't somehow connected. You know, I've always talked about that with the afterlife, and knowing that you're in the afterlife. Is there supposed to be some sort of, are you owed some sort of announcement that indeed you are gone? You know, are you owed answers? And I've often said that in this life we're given very few answers, and yet this is the life from which we're going to be judged according to some religions and some schools of thought. And yet we're given no real set rules, or we don't know where we're coming from or we're going to. So this kind of plays perfectly into that, where these pictures in this family's story of experiencing paranormal activity around them and being Mandela affected, you know, there doesn't need to be some sort of grand announcement. I just wanted to show you the pictures and to say that that the two are not mutually exclusive. The two can coexist. You know, you can be a Emmy and be something else. You can be a Mandela affected person and, you know, still be an accountant, or can be a Mandela affected person and still experience something that other people would call ghosts, or other people have a second sight, or can astral travel. You know, the Mandela Effect doesn't have to engulf all of those other things. And that too kind of adds a piece to that puzzle too. The fact that the Mandela Effect, it enters your life, and it somehow is an addendum to the experiences you're already having, is kind of is something worth noting. So these pictures are very interesting. Some are in the day and some are in the night. And then there's this one disparate picture right here. It has the those rods. I just thought I'd throw that in there simply because it's here. Not that I'm a specific rod fan or anything like that. They just happen to be in this picture, and I thought they were very interesting. And a lot of people, they're very convinced that rods are, bugs that are caught mid-frame or something. But it is interesting if you look at it in the totality of the pictures and the experiences of being Emmys and people that are experiencing something paranormal in their house. And again, before we go, I can't stress enough that the folks that are in the pictures here are not in any way in danger, feeling threatened. They're not, this is not a tale of horror. The Mandela Effect can oftentimes be unsettling, and sometimes if you have pictures that are taken or something that's moved in your house or some other kind of paranormal activity that happens in your house, that can be unsettling, but that can be more or less your interpretation of the situation. And obviously there are other paranormal accounts we hear that are absolutely horrific. But just because something spiritual doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a positive experience. Anyhow, that's all I got for now. I just thought these pictures were interesting, and the story that goes along with these pictures, tying them to paranormal stuff was kind of cool.